In the heart of the dense forest, the air was thick with tension. Jake and Mike, two seasoned hunters, crouched behind a thicket of bushes, their rifles at the ready. They had been tracking a massive grizzly bear for days, following its trail through the wilderness with unwavering determination. The hunt had started with excitement and a sense of adventure, but as the days wore on, the roles had shifted. The hunter had become the hunted, as if the grizzly had somehow sensed their intrusion into its domain. The sun was setting, casting long shadows through the trees. Mike's eyes darted around nervously, his grip on his rifle tightening. "Jake, I've got a bad feeling about this." Jake's face was etched with determination. "We've come too far to turn back now. We'll get this bear, and it'll be a trophy like no other." They hunkered down, waiting for the telltale sound of rustling leaves that would signal the bear's approach. Hours passed in silence, the tension mounting with every passing minute. The forest seemed to hold its breath, as if aware of the impending confrontation. Then a distant sound, a low growl that sent shivers down their spines. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the grizzly emerged from the shadows, its massive form a testament to its power. Its eyes were cold and calculating, a predator's gaze that held no trace of fear. Jake and Mike raised their rifles, their hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through their veins. The grizzly's gaze locked onto them, its lips curling back to reveal sharp yellowed teeth. It let out a deep, rumbling growl, a warning that echoed through the forest. "We've got this," Jake whispered, his voice determined, but as they trained their rifles on the bear, something shifted in the air. A sense of unease settled over them, a feeling that they were no longer in control. The grizzly's growls grew louder, more menacing, and they realized with a sinking feeling that they were no longer the predators. The bear charged, a force of nature hurtling toward them with a fury that left no room for escape. Jake and Mike fired their rifles, the shots ringing out through the forest. But the bear was undeterred, its massive body closing the distance between them with astonishing speed. In the chaos that followed, Jake and Mike were separated, their shots going wide as the bear's fury bore down upon them. The forest seemed to come alive with movement, the trees and shadows conspiring against them. Mike stumbled, his foot catching on a root, and he fell to the ground with a heavy thud. Jake's heart pounded as he watched in horror from a distance, his rifle slipping from his grasp. He yelled, a futile attempt to divert the bear's attention, but the grizzly was relentless, its massive paw swiping at Mike with a brutal force that left him defenseless. Time seemed to slow as Mike's scream cut through the air, a sound of agony and desperation that pierced the silence of the forest. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he watched his friend's life hanging in the balance. The bear's jaws closed around Mike and his cries were abruptly silenced. The forest fell silent once more, as if holding its breath in the wake of the gruesome scene. Jake's chest heaved, his eyes wide with shock and horror. The reality of the situation crashed down upon him. He was alone, hunted by a creature that was now stained with the blood of his friend. As the bear turned its attention toward him, its eyes gleaming with an eerie intelligence, Jake's survival instincts kicked in. He turned and ran, his heart pounding in his ears. The forest became a blur of shadows and tangled undergrowth as he sprinted through the darkness. Branches tore at his clothes, thorns dug into his skin, but Jake didn't stop. Fear fueled his every step, driving him onward through the labyrinth of trees. Behind him, the bear's heavy footfalls echoed, its growls a haunting reminder of the danger that pursued him. Jake's breath came in ragged gasps, his body pushed to its limits. He stumbled and fell, the ground unforgiving as it met his face. He scrambled to his feet, his vision blurry with sweat and exhaustion. The bear was closing in, its form a monstrous silhouette against the moonlit sky. With a surge of adrenaline, Jake forced himself to keep running. He pushed his body beyond its breaking point, his mind a blur of fear and determination. His heart pounded in his chest, the sound and echo of the bear's approaching footsteps. And then, just as his legs threatened to give out, he burst into a small clearing. Moonlight bathed the space, illuminating his escape route, a narrow trail that led deeper into the forest. Jake didn't hesitate, his feet carrying him forward as if driven by an otherworldly force. He ran until his lungs burned, until his muscles screamed in protest. The forest seemed to stretch on endlessly, a labyrinth of danger and uncertainty, but slowly, gradually, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter, until all that remained was the pounding of his own heart. Jake collapsed onto the ground, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He was alone, surrounded by the silence of the forest. The weight of the ordeal settled over him, and he realized with a heavy heart that he was the only one left, survivor of a hunt that had turned deadly. As he caught his breath, a haunting realization dawned upon him. He had escaped the bear's grasp, but the memory of that fateful night would forever stalk his nightmares. And though he had survived, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was still being hunted, not by a physical predator, but by the specter of the grizzly's relentless fury.